Welcome to this latest edition of the Real Deal podcast. I'm your host, Ril Dil Quinn. We are, of course, this is episode 8. Excuse me, let me not shortchange myself. Episode 928 of the Real Deal podcast. As we look at NFL Week 8, we also will have some NBA stuff as it was big news in the overnight. That was like some wild shit. You're waking up in the middle, waking up at like 6 o'clock in the morning and seeing ESPN breaking news about James Harden. But as always, we're going to begin with the themes. NFL Week 8, different season, same story. We'll talk about the Cincinnati Bengals, who are on the prowl once again as legit contenders. But first, we begin with all the thoughts. A win's a win. The Buffalo Bills survive the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Maybe that's kind of harsh. They never were really threatened seriously in this game. It kind of was like a slog. They were up 24-10, and Tampa Bay makes it close. Maybe listen, I told somebody who had a betting interest to take the points. The point spread was 9.5. I said the way Buffalo's offense has been playing Thursday night, these games can get strange. Take the points. 9.5 is way too many points. And I was almost wrong, but I was not. They get this last meaningless touchdown and cover the spread, but lose the game. But listen, this is a game. This is a part of the season where you see a number of top teams not playing great football across the board, or playing their best football. Kansas City, of course, we'll talk more about them. San Francisco is in a losing streak right now, so. This is kind of like that part of the season where teams are trying to just push through and make their runs for November and December. That's all there is to it. It is that, that part of the season, that dead part of the season where I told you a couple of weeks ago where fatigue can kick in, excuse me, and you get a situation where you have some upsets or you have teams playing down to the competition. Henceforth, Philadelphia, Washington, and henceforth, Kansas City, Denver. But this game, listen, this game, Josh Allen had a big game. I'm still not trusting the offense. And again, Tampa Bay, I said this last week, that Tampa Bay was a legit threat to Buffalo because they have a very good defense. They do have a very good defense. Buffalo wasn't going to explode for 40 points against Tampa Bay's defense. Tampa Bay's defense is that good. Josh Allen did look better than he has in the past couple of weeks. Not spectacular, but made some plays. And again, their offense is the Buffalo offense is nothing to write home about as far as creativity, as far as just execution. They basically say, "Hey, Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs." They depend. The problem with Buffalo's offense. Obviously, they have, we've mentioned this time after time, with a lack of like an identity, but they also have they also depend on their talent too much. They also depend on it to try to win games on just sheer talent. And eventually, the NFL is so spread out with talent, you're not going to be able to do that. Like, you can have, like, it's not like the NBA where you can have a dominant team and where, you can have like a team like Golden State in 2018 or 2017 and just be that much better than the league. That doesn't exist in the NFL right now. It just doesn't. Kansas City has the best player in the sport, the best tight end in the sport, a great kicker, one of the best defensive players in the sport, and they're still struggling to win games this year. Okay, that's how the NFL is right now. The talent level is so spread out. There's no team that is going to run away with the NFL. With the NFL. Now, again, as we get later in the season, we'll have contenders separate themselves, but you're not going to win games on just sheer talent consistently and expect that to carry you through as a long-term plan if you have any wishes of being a Super Bowl caliber team and making a deep run in the playoffs. And that's what is one of Buffalo's problems. But again, they get the win. They do get the win. They improve to 5-3, a game behind Miami. But of course, we know they beat Miami earlier, so they have that going for them. Their next 4 games are not easy by any stretch of imagination. You're talking about Cincinnati, which is which would be a very important, extremely important game for playoff position, home field advantage, and what have you. So Cincinnati, Denver, the Jets, and Philly. Broncos, I would have said, a couple of weeks ago it was a walkover, but the Broncos now will have some momentum coming off a win against Kansas City. They'll be feeling good about themselves. And the Jets have played people tough all year long. Beat the Bills earlier this season in the opening game on Monday night. And of course, Philly is Philly. They are if we're giving a power ranking of who's the best team in the league right now, you would have to say is the Eagles from top to bottom. With a 7, the only team in the NFL with 7 wins right now. But if you are the Buffalo Bills, you take the win, you keep it moving, and you keep trying to find your way from an offensive standpoint, and try to keep hopefully have your defense can carry you along until the offense gets rolling again over the course of the season. Games of note. We mentioned this earlier. We talked about this. Listen, Kansas City hadn't really been playing well, even though they were winning games. They hadn't been playing great football. They've been winning, they have Patrick Mahomes, they have Travis Kelce, they have Chris Jones. They have, those are 3 top players at their respective positions. But the bottom line is they were due for a game like this. And again, I know Denver has been some shit this year, but we saw this in Philadelphia. We saw this in D.C. this weekend. Playing your division opponent in a short time span, like 2 times in 3 weeks, or basically, that is not easy. I don't care how bad. I don't care how much the gap of talent is between the two teams. They know you. You just saw each other. So, trying to implement some new stuff in, good luck with that. So I think that definitely was a product of this game. And just Kansas City just played awful football. Especially offensively, by far their worst game of the season from an offensive standpoint. Patrick Mahomes was terrible in this game. Denver did enough offensively, and they were able to come out to win 24-9. And what had to be one of the biggest upsets of the season. As poorly as Kansas City was playing coming into this game, I had no faith whatsoever that there's no way that I thought. And I watched Denver. I know Denver played them close, relatively tough Thursday prior, last Thursday or the Thursday, on Thursday Night Football. But even with that being said, I did not see this coming whatsoever. We know what the issues for the Chiefs are. There are 3. Let's take away Travis Kelce. He is clearly their best receiver, but he's a tight end. In terms of their top 3 receivers at that position have combined this season total for 849 yards. Kelce has about 538 himself. Tyreek Hill and both A.J. Brown have more than that by themselves this year. And of course, they've been spectacular. But their top, they're getting nothing out their receivers. There's no separation. They have an okay running game. I know they have a great offensive line, but they don't have Derrick Henry in the backfield or a Nick Chubb. So, it's all like, they're all doing it. They've been doing it offensively, basically just Mahomes and Kelce. That's it. And more times than not, that's going to be good enough. But in a divisional game, or even later on in the season, when the competition ramps up, they're going to have to develop. Those receivers are going to have to step up. They're going to develop those receivers in a big way. Now, I'm surprised. I was shocked that there was not a move made from them to somewhat address that. They kind of stood pat. So, again, we'll see how that plays out. But those receivers right now just don't scare me. Wouldn't scare me at all. Like those receivers, like outside of Kelce, I'm rolling all my coverage to Kelce and saying, okay, I dare any of these receivers to beat me, please. I dare, please. So right now, the offense is looking extremely predictable. Again, we're talking about Andy Reid's one of the greatest coaches ever, the best offensive mind in football right now, the best coach in the league. I have a feeling that him and Mahomes will figure something out before the season is over. But right now, that offense is not looking like a vintage, by far, not even close to being a vintage Kansas City offense. And listen, maybe we'll see what Denver can do with this. I know statistically, this is where numbers can kind of be deceiving because their offense has been horrible this year. But statistically, Russell Wilson has played well this season when you look at the numbers. So again, I would be careful about just looking at the numbers. You have to looking at the sheer numbers. You have to actually watch the game because their offense has been horrible. But we'll see if Denver can build upon this moving forward. Of course, one of the marquee game of the day was Cincinnati and San Francisco. And Cincinnati went to San Francisco and absolutely took it to the 49ers, 31-17. This game was about Joe Burrow. This game was about a team that, frankly, knows how to win, a team that has been in the Super Bowl and the AFC Championship the last 2 years, a team that has found its footing winning 3 straight games, and now all of a sudden they are back to being legit Super Bowl contending teams, and they are one of the scarier teams in the NFL right now. Joe Burrow was spectacular in this game. He may, at one point, he completed like 17 straight passes, completely just like undressed this 49er defense. I mean, just it was taking them apart. That was by far his best performance of the season, by far their best win of the season. I told you, we would learn a lot from this game about what direction that one of these teams' seasons is going to go into. Now, if San Francisco lost, I wasn't going to overreact too much, considering that that would just guarantee that they're in the dogfight in the division, which they are. But if Cincinnati was able to win this game, that to me, I thought that could propel them into making a major run down the stretch. And this was a big time win for Cincinnati. They physically, again, very few teams are able to physically deal with San Francisco. San Francisco, along with Philadelphia, is one of the more physical teams in the league. Not only did they stand pat, go toe to toe with San Francisco physically, they really pushed San Francisco around and made San Francisco's physicality a non-factor. Now, again, no Trent Williams in this game. In this game, one of the best offensive linemen in the league, best tackles in the league, one of the best players in the league. Period. Like, he's that dominant. So I can't dismiss that. Listen, coming out San Francisco is easy. I'm not pushing the panic button on San Francisco. They're just going to be in a dogfight for that division, considering how well Seattle is playing. And they probably won't. They probably, I think, cost themselves home field more than likely, outright with this loss. But San Francisco is a veteran team. They'll be fine. We know that they know how to win on the road in the playoffs. They've won a number of playoff games over the last couple of years. This was about Cincinnati. This was all about Cincinnati. Joe Burrow has thrust himself back into the MVP race, in my opinion. And again, he looked like Joe Burrow in this game. Even prior games that they were winning, it was like, okay, the defense is making plays. He's making a couple plays here and there, but he hadn't looked like a vintage Joe Burrow that took him to the Super Bowl, and that almost took him to the Super Bowl last year. This game, he looked like himself, and that is a scary proposition for the AFC, because this is a big game team. This team knows how to win, and they're not afraid of anybody. They're not afraid. They went to Kansas City and won in Kansas City Stadium a couple years ago to go to the Super Bowl. They have no fear of no one. Their coach has no fear. We know they can construct a defense that can stop in a big game that can contain any offense. So this, again, to me, this was a very important game as far as the landscape of the AFC, because now we have another contender to the party, or welcoming back a contender to the party. Also, again, I mentioned earlier, Philadelphia took care of business against Washington 38-31, a game that Washington had their chances, had their opportunities to beat Philly, to be honest with you. It got away late. Sam Howell probably had made one mistake, but other than that, played a spectacular game. Washington really played Philadelphia as tough as you can play them without winning, but came up short in both games. Of course, that first game in Philadelphia, they lost in overtime and blew a lead, and they blew a lead in this game. I don't again, I don't make anything. I'm not knocking Philly for this game being close. It's a divisional game. Washington has played them tough the last couple of years. They know him well, so Philly absolutely did what they had to do. Uh, you know, a road you would not toss aside, toss up. You would not give back road wins in the division. That's all there is to it. Hurts was spectacular in this game. AJ Brown continues to play. Like everybody's talking about Tyreek Hill, and rightfully so. He's on pace for like a gazillion yards, on pace for like 2,000 yards. But AJ Brown now has 6 straight games of 125 yards, which no one in the history of the NFL has done ever. You're talking about not Jerry Rice, not Randy Moss, Marvin Harrison. Think about some of the great receivers we've seen in the history of this league, and no one has. Calvin Johnson, no one has ever done that in the history of the league. So he's playing at a All Pro level right now, and just catching everything in sight, even passes that are not good passes. He's coming down with them. So again, Philadelphia does what they have to do, and they will go into the showdown with Dallas with a lot of momentum and rolling at 7-1. Game of the week. For the second straight time, second straight week. We have Cleveland this time on the wrong side of 24-20. This is a game easily Cleveland could have won on the road. Seattle did not play particularly well in this game, which that's good for them because they were not great in this game. We knew this was going to be a closely contested game. They were able to score with about a minute left or something like that, under a minute left. So they give Seattle a lot of credit. Cleveland was able to run the ball, but again, PJ Walker, Cleveland's actually done a decent job. Has done a very good job holding down the fort, considering playing without Deshaun Watson. We thought that he could come back in this game, but that was not the case. They're good enough defensively and good enough to run the ball to be able to keep them in these games. And Myles Garrett, of course, is a monster. But Seattle was Seattle did what it had to do. Seattle finds a way to win these close games, and right now Seattle finds himself in first place ahead of San Francisco. Again, that's going to be it's going to come down to Seattle and San Francisco as far as in their head-to-head, as far as who wins that division, because San Francisco with this 3-game losing streak has put themselves in a compromising position to where they're going to have to fight tooth and nail to win that division. And I don't expect Seattle to fall off. I think they're a solid team. The quarterback is good enough in terms of Geno Smith. Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll. I know it's had a rough couple of years as far as some of the coaching decisions and things of that nature, and some of the philosophy of the franchise in terms of direction. But they seem to be clear on what they want to do in terms of having an identity, and they will be again. I don't think they're going anywhere as far as that division goes. I think Seattle is going to be in it for the long haul for this season. Again, I don't have no faith in Seattle as a contender if they do make the playoffs. I just don't. They don't have, like, Geno Smith can only take you so far, and the personnel is okay, not great, versus those upper echelon teams in the NFC. Philly, San Francisco, even Dallas, they're not as good. I don't even think they're as good as Dallas, to be honest with you. And I'd probably even take the Detroit talent over them. But Seattle is a team that knows that finds ways to win. They really are kind of the Jacksonville of the NFC. They find ways to win, especially these closely contested games. Who won the week? Joe Burrow. We know that at his best, he is a top quarterback in this league. He had not played like it in September, and we talked about he had been picked up with some injuries, even going back to training camp. We wondered, some of the hits that he was taking. We wondered about there was a point in Cincinnati's season where I thought that, despite what they did last year, they coming back from a poor record, I didn't see that type of energy this year. I really had some major doubts that they could get back to this point and be talked about again as a legit Super Bowl contender. But again, I was dead wrong because that team, they're right there. And this guy is the number one reason why they are right there. When he's playing at the level he's playing at on Sunday, they can beat anybody in the league. They can beat anyone if he's playing at this particular level, in which he is right now. Over the last 3 games, 8 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and during the 3 game winning streak. And again, when he's slinging it, like look out, because not only as a throwing, we know he can run as well. We know he's a legit running threat as well, and it's very judicious in terms of he's not going to take a lot of hits. So he Joe Burrow at this level makes Cincinnati a team that no one, I mean no one, not Kansas City, not anyone wants to see that team in the playoffs. No one. We'll switch gears a bit. Go to the deep dive. Of course, James Harden is no longer a Philadelphia 76er. For the third time in basically in 3 years, he's been moved once again. And once again is not on good terms at all. So just to give you the details of the trade, if you hadn't heard or haven't, I haven't heard, but haven't really looked at the at all the deep, minute details in terms of picks and stuff like that. All some of the stuff that people don't really care about, but that's actually important when you're looking at these trades. So Harden and PJ Tucker go to Philly. Go to the Clippers. The Sixers get Covington, Batum, KJ Martin, Marcus Morris Sr., a 26 and 28 first round unprotected picks, which is huge. Which is I can't emphasize the importance of them getting a 26 and 28 unprotected first round pick. Sixers don't get Terrence Mann. Clippers were able to keep him. So normally when the best player in the trade, and he was by far, despite what you may think of Harden, and I'm not a Harden guy by any stretch of imagination, he is by far the best player in this trade. But bear with me for a second. Normally, 99% of the time, I think that the team that gets the best player wins the trade. And normally it's like, all right, yeah, you might got all these picks, got some good role players. They got Kevin Durant or they got so and so. This situation is I couldn't be happier if I were a Sixer fan. Sixers clearly won this trade. Clearly. You get the two first of all, it's addition by subtraction. You get rid of a guy that was a malcontent, the guy that bad energy, toxic, wanted no part of the locker room, and they wanted no part of him, to be honest with you. So that's automatically addition by subtraction. Two, Tyrese Maxey is going to be an all-star this year. He's averaging, coming into the night, like 30 points a game, shooting 56%. And again, it's only a 3-game sample, but still, he's been great this year. He could be possibly even an all-NBA caliber player. Like, he's only 22 years old. So you give him room to grow and get better. Okay. And again, you get quality role players back. Covington, Batum, Marcus Morris Sr. These guys have been in playoff games. Now again, it's not. We know that those three have limitations. Batum is basically on his. Batum, I think, might retire. Is probably going to retire after this year. Marcus Morris Sr. and Covington are decent role players, but not the type of role players that are going to put you over the top. Like, let's not be crazy. Let's not get crazy from that standpoint. But all of them have good contracts, and this is where it gets kind of tricky for the Sixers. Clear cut and tricky at the same time. They're in a position to where they will have over $66 million of cap space come somewhere in 2024. Now, if you're the Sixers, you also have to convince Joel Embiid that this is the place for you and you can win here. Because he could be the next superstar that can force a trade easily. Their best course of action probably would be to hold on to not trade for somebody in season. See how this team goes. See how this team play. See how this goes with this team. Keep all your assets. Pick up a big free agent next year, which they will have the cap space to, and then go out and trade, and then go out there and possibly make some moves with the 2 draft picks that you have. That probably would be their best bet. But if they have to, then they might be in a position where they're going to have to trade, make an in-season trade, depending on how it goes. Come whatever the trade deadline is. I think it's in March, late February, early March. I think late February. Yeah, I think I want to say early. I think it's later than it's normally. It's probably in March. But they have a lot of options. To be perfectly honest with you, and again, this is to me, I wouldn't have thought for them to get one first round pick was okay. That's one thing. For them to get multiple first round picks unprotected, and again, that just shows you how desperate both of these teams were desperate. But the Clippers, yeah, you keep Terrence Mann, and the Terrence Mann will be a very important player for the Clippers, especially in the postseason. We've seen him have big postseason games a couple years ago against Utah. So he's definitely not afraid of the moment. A very good player, very young player, extremely as a young player who is not afraid of the moment. I'm a Terrence Mann fan, so they kept him, but you bring in a guy who it hasn't worked out anywhere he's been. Okay, it ended in Houston miserably. It ended in Brooklyn miserably, and it ended in Philadelphia miserably. James Harden has not advanced past the second round of playoffs since 2018. That's a long time ago. Remember that 7-game classic series against Golden State. Kevin Durant, when they went Golden State went back to back, and Houston probably should have won. So they have not, he's not been past the second round in almost 6 years now. And again, this is a guy who he's shaping up to be one of the most toxic stars, future Hall of Fame players in recent memory in terms of how he's ended his career. Like I was thinking about this. Like Allen Iverson, it didn't end well for Allen Iverson, who's a top 75 player, great Philadelphia 76er, of course, iconic player as far as the culture. We know he met to the NBA, so it didn't end well for him because he wasn't willing to accept the role of being a role player. We saw how it went in Detroit and Memphis and what have you. But he wasn't toxic though. It wasn't like he was forcing himself off teams and doing shit like he wasn't ruining teams' championship hopes. Like James Harden has compromised back-to-back franchises' championship hopes to where if he played better, Philadelphia last year should have been in the NBA Finals last year. There's not be Boston fell apart. Okay, they came apart against Miami. Miami, we know, overachieved. Milwaukee, of course, fell apart against Miami. It was right there, absolutely right there for Philadelphia to get to the finals. Now, would they have beaten Denver? Probably not. Jokic was on a mission. Denver, Murray and Jokic were just unstoppable. They were 16-4 in the playoffs. The right team won the championship last year. But at least Philadelphia probably should have made the finals. If James Harden is just 5% better, not even vintage James Harden, going back to his Houston days when he led them to the Western Conference Finals and when he was a perennial top 5 MVP candidate, top 3 MVP candidate for like 4 or 5 years. Now, forget about that James Harden, but even a James Harden that would have been 5% better could have got that team should have got to the finals. So again, I can't think of a player. Even Russell Westbrook got his shit together with the Clippers last year. He got to the point, with the Clippers, he was like, all right, I'm a 6 man. This is my role. He played well in the playoffs. And again, I know, minus Kawhi Leonard, and we know the situation with Paul George. We understand it. I get it, but you talk to the Clipper, you talk to the Clipper people this year, or you hear from read about the Clippers and the attitude. Everybody likes Westbrook. No one says anything bad about Westbrook on the Clippers right now. Even Ty Lue is sold on Westbrook. The Sixers, for the most part, they can't stand James Harden. Nobody is coming out here. Nobody. You don't hear anybody in Philadelphia coming out saying, "Well, we wish we still had James." No, no one. No, he has no allies whatsoever. And there's a reason for this. He cannot get out of his own way. Again, if you're the Clippers, the Sixers was an absolute no-brainer. If I'm the Clippers, I wouldn't have made this move. I'm sorry. Because the bottom line is, people could talk about that shit about, Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. They need another ball handler, and they're always low in assists in terms of, ranking bottom and a half in terms of assists and playmaking. Yeah, sure. That all sounds great. The bottom line is, if Paul George and Kawhi Leonard can't stay healthy, it doesn't matter. Their success is predicated on those two guys, Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, staying healthy. Period, point blank. That's it. And again, you're bringing Harden. It's like they're only. How many coaches can handle Harden right now? When you think about it, how many coaches? The Heat? Maybe the Lakers with LeBron? Maybe. I don't think Milwaukee can handle Harden because I think Giannis would choke him. Giannis wouldn't tolerate that shit. You have to have a special type of culture to deal with a James Harden. You have to be what Golden State was. You have to be what San Antonio was back in the Tim Duncan heyday with Popovich and Ginobili and all them. You have to have a special type of culture to deal with this guy. And they're just not out there in the NBA. They're just not there right now. They're just not, because it's such a player-dominated league. And these owners and organizations have done horrible jobs at constructing their front offices. That's why you see coaches getting fired left and right. So the coaches are not strong. The foundations of these cultures and these organizations are just not strong. There's more toxic cultures than there are solid cultures. Of course, Denver. I don't even think Denver, as strong as Denver's culture is, I don't think they wouldn't even want to deal with them. And they don't need them, but even if they could use them, they'd be like, "Nah, we good. We'll sacrifice talent for character and also intangibles. We're good." So, if I were the Clippers again, the Clippers, mind you, keep this in mind about the Clippers. They are in absolute win now mode. Kawhi Leonard and both Paul George will be free agents. Can opt out of their deals, and they're going to be looking for big money in the summer of 2024. So the Clippers' future. Who knows? I mean, the Clippers. That's why I said those picks. The 26 and 28 picks that are unprotected, those are valuable assets for the 76ers. Extremely valuable assets, because the Clippers, this thing could blow up after this year easily. There's a scenario where Paul George and Kawhi Leonard are not on the Clippers this time next year. That scenario does exist. And again, look at James Harden's last 5 postseasons. Look at the Clippers' last 5 postseasons. None of them have ended with an NBA Finals appearance, let alone a championship, even an NBA Finals appearance. Clippers have been in Western Conference Finals twice in 21. No, once. I'm sorry, once in 21, and then a few about 2 conference semifinals appearances and a missed playoffs and a first round exit. And again, I gave you James Harden's last 5 postseasons. He's only been in conference finals once in the last 5 years. Once. So I'm glad. Listen, if you're the Sixers, again, you get this out the way. It doesn't become a distraction. He didn't even step on the floor this year. They sent him home before they on Saturday or Friday before they were about to schedule to play Toronto. They beat Toronto this weekend. I watched that game on Saturday. So they don't even have to deal with this black cloud anymore. Just you off the team. We're not talking about it anymore. Don't need to ask any more questions. Go ask Tyler Lue, and he's a Clipper now. Go ask LA. He belongs to LA Times. So you don't even have to deal with this distraction. He's not even a distraction anymore. We got Tyrese Maxey. We're moving forward. We're gonna go about our keep it moving. And again, the Clippers, you will be answering questions about James Harden for the entire season. And again, he can come out and play great for a month, but we know what happens in the playoffs. And again, we know what happens. This is such a combustible situation between with the Clippers and James Harden. You know how this is going to end. We know how this is going to turn out. We know it. We already know what the results. We don't have to watch. I'm just going to watch to be entertained because I know how this movie ends. Miserably. Stock up, stock down. Jacksonville Jaguars are playing great football right now, playing as well as anybody in the league. They're not. I don't consider them. I don't think Jacksonville can get to the Super Bowl, but they are finding ways to win. Excellent win over Pittsburgh. They have beaten some quality teams that with beating Pittsburgh and beating Buffalo. This Pittsburgh win is a nice win on the road. I know Kenny Pickett didn't play, but there's no big difference between Mitch Trubisky and Kenny Pickett. They're at this stage in the career. They're in their respective careers. Pickett hasn't developed to that level yet. So Jacksonville, obviously, keep your eye on them. They're a tough, physical team that finds ways to win. They don't have a high point differential for a team that's 4 games over 500. I think it's only like 38 points. So they're winning close games. And every year you'll see a team that'll win a number of one-score games. Those things tend to balance out over the course of from year to year. So it seems like this. And again, these are not fluky wins, but I'm just saying that they're not running away from anybody. They're just finding ways to win, playing solid football for the most part. Anybody listening to this podcast knows I'm a big Trevor Lawrence fan. He's been good this year. He hasn't been great, but he's still to be a franchise caliber quarterback whose best days are only ahead of him. So as far as stock down, the Washington Commanders defense, and I put this up before they even made the trades, and then it made even more sense after they made their trades. The defense has been, and I'll deal with the trades later on. The defense has been awful this year. It's been flat out just dreadful. The defense was supposed to be the calling card of the team. They had a top 3 defense as far as yardage goes. They had a top 10, top 7, 8 defense as far as points allowed goes. Their defense played great last year. They really did, especially down the stretch. Their defense this year has been this has just been abysmal. And I don't see how Jack Del Rio keeps his job past this year, to be honest with you. Like I mean, Ron Rivera could be out as well. Like so that they could be, we could be in for some mass changes in the DMV for the Commanders. Their defense has been putrid. And listen, coming into this year, we knew what their issues were. Offensive line, developing a young quarterback. The offensive line has not been good, but it hasn't been. The offensive line hasn't been good. It hasn't been good. And Sam Howell actually has been much better than I ever thought he was going to be. He's actually played relatively well. He had a horrible game with Buffalo. We understand that, but he played 2 very good games against Philadelphia, and that's a tough defense and a veteran team. So you can't just point the fingers at the offense. It could be better. We understand this. They're only averaging like 21 points a game, which is not enough in today's NFL. But their defense has been hard to watch, and there's no way their defense should be that poor with the amount of talent they have, especially on that defensive line. It just should not happen. Oh, we'll wrap it up with some real thoughts. Couple trades. So Montez Sweat and Chase Young are traded. Montez Sweat goes to Chicago, which I don't know what the hell Chicago's doing. Like I don't know why. Chicago, I don't know what Chicago's logic is. Sweat is a very good player, but it's not like they're a Montez Sweat away from competing. Like Chicago is an awful team, but they trade for him anyway. The more important move to me was Chase Young going to San Francisco because again, Chase Young has had a hard time staying on the field. He clearly, remember he was a number 2 pick a couple years back. We know that he has not lived up to that. He just hasn't been able to stay on the field. But again, I mentioned earlier on when I was talking about the Sixers and James Harden about cultures. San Francisco has a top culture. They have great coaching. They have, especially on the defensive end. I think this is an absolute steal for San Francisco. You add him to a already top tier defense, and I think he's going to flourish. I really think that this is going to, if he can stay healthy, is going to rejuvenate his career. And I just see him I can see him being dominant with this San Francisco defense because they have so many guys that you have to pay attention to that he's going to get a lot of one-on-one coverage. He's going to get he should be able to, if he can't flourish in San Francisco, then, his career might be over. Like, he can't be able to, he won't be able to play anywhere. You can't play in this system. It's a defensive-friendly system. It's a pass-rush-friendly system. If you cannot make it in this system, then I don't know what his career looks like moving forward. This is a perfect place for him to get traded. He couldn't ask for a better place to get moved to than that franchise with that defense and with their philosophies and how they play. So, and by the way, third round pick for San Francisco, it's worth the risk. You're trying to win a Super Bowl. You can never have enough pass rushers in the NFL. We understand that. Buffalo gets Rasul Douglas, I think, which is necessary. Their defense, of course, has a litany of injuries. Picking him up, and we've seen him have some big years with Green Bay, especially a couple of years ago when he played at a near all-pro level. So he's a very good player, smart player. Will immensely help their secondary. But I actually was surprised that more teams did not make moves, to be honest with you. I expected the Dolphins to make a move. I expected Kansas City to make a move. Minnesota gets Joshua Dobbs. That's, of course, that's out of pure desperation. Kirk Cousins is going to be probably out for the season with the Achilles. With the Achilles injury, which is a horrible break for them, considering they've won 3 straight games and even the record at 4-4. And who knows? I mean, Detroit could fall apart and they could be possibly had a chance to take that division, but now they're going to be up against it without Kirk Cousins, who's having a very good season. Kirk, listen, it doesn't impact winning at the rate that at the clip in terms of his numbers, but Kirk can put up their numbers. I'll tell you that. Kirk Cousins, he can put up some numbers. You're gonna look up, Kirk gonna have 30 touchdowns, 12, but 14, 15 interceptions and a bunch of fumbles as well. So it comes those and a bunch of yards, but those numbers come with a price. We all know that. We all know Kirk Cousins has a ceiling. You only gonna go so far with him, but he does put up numbers. He does. He's good for your fantasy team, but Minnesota's not going anywhere with Joshua Dobbs at the helm. That's going to wrap it up for this latest edition of the Ril Dil podcast. I will see you next time. Again, we will have a podcast coming out next week. Of course, Snowfall season 3 episode. No, I'm actually ahead. Season 3 episode 1 will be coming out. We just dropped season 2 episode 10 Education, which was the season 2 finale. So next week you will hear season 3 episode 1 to Protect Swerve. Have a great rest of your evening. Have a safe Halloween night out there. So long.